Interactive Town Hall is currently in music hold. In a few minutes, you'll get first-hand information from RTD on changes that will transform public transportation in the Denver region. If you'd like to ask a question during tonight's event, press star 3 on your telephone keypad at any time. Please note this call may be monitored, recorded, or rebroadcast. Your RTD Interactive Town Hall will begin shortly.
Good evening, and thank you for Town Hall meeting hosted by the I'm Roger, and I'll be your moderator tonight as we have a conversation with RTD Director Erik Davidson, who represents District I. District I includes parts of Boulder County, the cities of Lafayette and Longmont, and the city and county of Broomfield. We also have agency staff joining us to answer your questions, and they'll introduce themselves during the call. Tonight, we will be covering several topics, including customer safety initiatives, RTD's fare study and equity analysis, current recruitment efforts, and the next steps for Reimagine RTD. This is your opportunity to share thoughts and ask questions. This is your first time on a virtual telephone town hall. Here is how it works. To ask a question, just press star 3 on your telephone keypad, and you will be transferred to an operator who will take down some basic information. Once the operator has your information, you can listen to the conversation until it's your turn, and when I call your name, please repeat your question for our live audience. We do want to answer as many questions tonight, so please be as brief as possible. If you're on the phone and would like to view the slide deck that goes along, you can take a look on YouTube or RTD's website. And for those of you watching on YouTube, you can submit your questions as a comment. We want to hear from you too. In addition to answering questions live, we'll be asking for survey questions during the call, and I'll explain that process later. It's now my pleasure to introduce District I Director Erik Davidson. Thanks for joining tonight, Director.
Yeah, thanks, Roger. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us for this conversation this evening. As Roger mentioned, my name is Erik. I'm Erik Davidson. I am the Director for District I, which, as Roger mentioned, includes Longmont and Lafayette, as well as Erie, and the city and county of Broomfield, and some of unincorporated Boulder County, as well as a small little part of Thornton as well. And I'm very excited to be here. It's an honor to represent this district in this area, and I'm excited to answer any questions that come up this evening, and also to hear any comments folks have to share, as well as to share some updates from RTD as well. So as Roger mentioned, again, please press star 3 to enter your question or comment online. But Roger, before we dive into that first topic, I think we'd certainly all love to learn a little bit about who's joined us this evening. So I'll go ahead and hand off to you to ask our first survey question.
All right, thank you, Director. Again, star 3 to get in the queue to ask a question. As Director Davidson just mentioned, we'd like to learn a little bit about those of you joining us tonight. It is easy to participate. All you need to do is use your telephone keypad to enter the number of your response. Here's that question. How frequently do you ride RTD services? Press 1 for every day. Press 2 for once or twice a week. Press 3 for once or twice a month. Press 4 if you ride a few times per year. And press 5 if you do not currently ride RTD. Please record your vote, and we'll share the results with you in just a moment. And again, star 3 on your keypad to ask a question. There has been a lot of news coverage about safety concerns in the Denver metro area. I'd like to ask Steve Martingano, Interim Chief of RTD's Transit Police Division, to introduce himself and talk about what RTD is doing to help improve safety on transit and at RTD stations and bus stops. Chief, welcome.
Thanks, Roger. As stated, my name is Steve Martingano. I'm the Interim Police Chief with the RTD Transit Police Division. I've been in law enforcement for 29 years and last 6.5 here at RTD. So we've heard our customers' concerns about inappropriate behavior they're seeing around the city lately. As more people are using transit again, whether they're coming back to the office or just going out for a night at a town, safety and security is a top priority for RTD. Every day, RTD staff works hard to make sure customers get to their destination safely. One of those areas of concern is our Denver Union Station. In collaboration with the City and County of Denver, RTD announced in April some security enhancements to the bus concourse, which is the bus terminal underneath the rail platforms. In the short term, we're checking lighting that's being replaced to make sure we better illuminate the area. Certain entrances and exit points are being converted to emergency exits to allow for better pedestrian flow. And consistent deep cleaning is being done to make sure that that area is comfortable for you to visit. That's short term, but this is a long-term project, and over the next 12 to 16 months, the bus concourse will convert to a paid fare area to restrict access to only those who are using the buses to commute. This involves a redesign of the area. This project is expected to cost anywhere between $10 to $15 million, and we recognize that these are expensive upgrades, and under our strategic priority, financial success, RTD takes very seriously the management of all of our financial resources, and this project is no exception. So RTD is going to plan to invest funds from the return of the approximately $29 million credit risk premium, which was part of the original investment into Union Station, to implement and construct design improvements to enhance the customer experience when utilizing the station.
Director, how can customers stay up to date on these changes? There's a lot going on down there.
Yeah, thanks, Roger. There is a lot going on, and we're making a number of changes, as the Chief mentioned, and we're excited to have that $29 million coming back in from that credit risk premium. And I would encourage everybody, in terms of staying up to date, to check out a web page. So RTD has actually launched a web page that's dedicated specifically to providing updates on these security changes and the facility enhancements at Denver Union Station. So that web page is rtd-denver.com/projects/restoring-DUS. So that's rtd-denver.com/projects/restoring-DUS. Customers can also sign up for our newsletter on the website. We'll be posting some information there. And in addition to the enhancements at Denver Union Station, RTD is making some other changes to ensure that customers are safe when they're traveling. So Chief, I'm wondering if you could talk about some of those changes as well.
Yeah, absolutely, Director. So in March, that's when I received my interim police chief role, and the first thing I did was I broke our police department up into 4 impact teams. So you are going to see more police officers. One's dedicated to bus, another one's dedicated to rail, so you'll see them out and about on the routes, on the buses, bus stops, and platforms. We also have a community engagement officer who's reaching out to the local cities and police agencies to ask for assistance, but also tell them about RTD and our security. And then our last is our mental health and homeless outreach impact team. For those that don't know, RTD was the first public transportation in the country that combined mental health clinicians with police officers in a co-responder unit. We currently have 4 mental health clinicians that go out and assist us with mental health, people suffering from mental health episodes. And we also received a grant where we were able to bring on board a homeless outreach coordinator. We also utilize secondary employment officers from local police jurisdictions, currently Aurora, Denver, and Thornton PD. And then probably the first faces you'll see is our RTD contracted security team. That's the current contract with Allied Universal, and we have enough resources to hire 295 security officers to be out and about in our system. These changes in partnership with the local police departments really help RTD quickly respond to customer safety issues.
Sometimes we get calls from customers who wonder why the commuter rail lines, including the A and G lines, have armed security on each train, but light rail lines do not always have an officer or one of our private security personnel traveling. Why is that?
That's a great question, Roger. The Federal Railroad Administration, also known as the FRA, requires a second crew member to be present on all of our commuter rail vehicles. So that's our A line to the airport, the B line to Westminster, the G line to Arvada, and the N line to Thornton. But there's no such requirement as a second crew member to be on our light rail vehicles. So while we do not have security personnel on every light rail vehicle trip, our rail impact team that I mentioned earlier, as well as our security personnel, are on our vehicles as well as our platforms, checking fares and ensuring customers are traveling safely. But the one thing I would tell you, our greatest tool, and I encourage everyone to download, is our Transit Watch app. We have a free Transit Watch app. It's called RTD Transit Watch. It's available on both Apple and Android platforms. It allows customers to report security and safety concerns easily and discreetly. And for those individuals that don't have a smartphone, you go ahead and call RTD Transit Police at 303-299-2911. Either way, you'll reach one of our 2 911 certified police dispatch centers. One thing I ask, though, is either way you do it, please be as specific as possible. Reporting a situation, include your location and any description of persons involved. And every time you submit an incident, again, whether it's through the Transit Watch app or a phone call, you are helping our team resolve situations and also provide us the help that we need to determine where we should be focusing our resources.
All right, again, you can download the Transit Watch app on both your Apple and Android smartphones. And if you're like my mom and don't have a smartphone, you can reach RTD's Transit Police at 303-299-2911. Now, before we get to your questions, here's the answer to our first survey question. We asked, how frequently do you ride RTD services? 53% of you said you do not currently ride RTD. 27% said a few times per year, and 10% said once or twice a month. We certainly appreciate customers who choose to take transit, and for those of you who don't currently use transit, RTD continues to work hard to improve services, so give us a try. All right, let's go to questions, and first up tonight is Richard. Go ahead.
Hi there. Good evening. This question's for Director Davidson. It's, when did you last ride an RTD bus or train, and how was your experience?
Yeah, thanks, Richard. I appreciate the question. The last time I was on the service was last Wednesday, taking the N line into Denver Union Station from the East Lake Station at 124th. And my experience was very good. The N line opened during the pandemic. And so we started off with pretty light ridership. Anecdotally, not looking at the numbers, I've seen that steadily picking up during commuting times, which has been my experience in the morning. It was a little bit quiet in the midday region coming back. Denver Union Station is definitely a good experience. What I would say is the week prior, I've also commuted in using the Flatiron Flyer. The bus terminal, certainly, as we discussed earlier, there has been challenges with maintaining the sense of safety there. And I think that some of the changes that we are making are starting to show some progress. I know that my personal experience and the experience of my family in the bus terminal has been improving steadily over the previous couple of months as we've been implementing these changes. So overall, I mean, I'm a little biased, Richard, but I've had a very good experience, and I certainly invite those that have access to the N line to join us on the N line. Although it opened in the pandemic, it's a great service and a great way to get into Union Station. So thanks for the question.
Thank you. If you have a question, just press *3. We've got operators standing by to take down your information. We're going to hear from Gary next. Go ahead. Gary, go ahead. You're live on our call.
Yes, I was just calling in regards to the security. It looks like the chief kind of answered some of the questions that I had available in regards to security and what we're doing about some of the security on some of the rail lines. And I always say the 71st downtown is the rail line that I usually take. So I just more concerned about security and homeless people that we have problems with.
Rector, do you have any other comments on security concerns?
No. I think the chief shared quite a bit, but Gary, thank you for reaching out about that. I mean, yes, it is an extremely high priority. I share your sentiment as somebody who is on the system. And what I would just add that earlier this year, as part of this restoring the welcoming environment to Denver Union Station. It actually went all the way to a board resolution where the board banded together to really fully commit to implementing some changes and improvements across the system. So I guess I would just say that the whole board's with you. A lot of us at RTD, most of us at RTD are using and riding the system, so we share all of the same concerns as the community, and thanks for continuing to ride with us as we work through tough challenges like this.
All right, great question so far. Thank you for that. As a reminder, if you have a question, just press *3 on your phone. And if you're participating and watching us online or on YouTube, just enter your questions in the comment section and we'll get to them. We're going to move on to our next topic for tonight's call, RTD's Fair Study and Equity Analysis. Chris Quinn is with us. Would you introduce yourself and provide an update?
Hi, Roger. Yeah, this is Chris Quinn. I'm with the RTD Planning Department. And over the last several years, we have heard repeatedly from our customers that our current fare structure is expensive and confusing to use. And so one of our strategic priorities as an agency is customer excellence, where we strive to deliver high-quality customer service. And the Fare Study and Equity Analysis will help us identify areas where we can improve the customer experience when taking transit. So the intent of the Fare Study is to seek to understand customers' opinions and preferences on current RTD fares and how RTD can improve them. To date, RTD has hosted 2 public meetings, including one conducted solely in Spanish, and we've also had 3 customer feedback panels. In addition, we've invited customers to provide feedback on the current fare study using a survey, and that survey was available not only in English, but in Spanish, Chinese, and Vietnamese as well. And for that survey, we received over 2,400 responses.
That's great that we got so many comments. Chris, I'm wondering if you could comment just whether the community engagement for the Fare Study is now over, and maybe comment on where RTD is currently in the process.
Yeah, so we also have, we expect the study to continue through 2022, and we expect to have a recommendation for the RTD Board of Directors to review sometime in the spring of 2023, so spring of next year. So yes, there will be a lot more opportunities for customers to share their ideas. In fact, coming up in June later this month on the 20th and the 27th, we will be having more customer meetings. First one will be in English. The one on the 27th, that will be in Spanish. And at those meetings, we will start discussing conceptual fare options and then the trade-offs that would be associated with those options. Then in the fall, we will connect again with the public once more to try to get more feedback on a more refined list of fare alternatives. Now, I want to note that before any changes to any fare products go into effect, there would be public hearings, and we expect several of those would be held probably late this year or early next year, but that's where we would have the final proposals before taking those to the RTD Board of Directors.
Thanks, Chris. And could you just add where people can learn more about this process?
Yeah, so if you're interested in learning more, we do have a web page. Rather than me reading the URL address to you, the easiest thing to do is to just type in the search bar RTD Fare Study, and the top search hit will be it will take you right to the RTD Fare Study web page. And on that, you have the ability to put comments, submit comments if you'd like. You can sign up for our mailing list, or you can just read up on what is going on. We have quite a bit of material on there, and we will have pretty soon posted summaries as well as the videos of the first series of public meetings. Then after the second meetings, we will post those we will post those on the web page as well. And then as long as we're talking about fares, I do want to just put in a real quick plug to remind people that RTD does currently offer several discounted tickets to various groups, and those include youth, people with disabilities, and seniors. We also offer discounts for low-income residents as part of the LIVE program. And you can find out more information on those programs as well on our website, rtd-denver.com. If you just click up to the fairs section, and there's a section under that for discounts.
Thank you for that information, Chris. Let's take a moment now to ask our second survey question. Just use your telephone keypad to enter the number of your response. Here it is. Do you believe that RTD fares should be more affordable even if it results in less service? Press 1 for yes, press 2 for no, and press 3 if you're not sure. Go ahead, record your vote. We'll share the results with you shortly, and we are going to go back to questions. First up is Stacy. Go ahead. Stacy, you're live with our audience.
Hi. I moved into Broomfield approximately 10 years ago. When I moved into the apartment I'm at, on the corner of Highway 287 and South Midway Boulevard, there was 4 routes that ran up and down Midway Boulevard and 3 that ran Highway 287. You guys at the board have taken that down to 1 bus that runs 287 and 1 bus that runs Midway. It barely runs Midway at all. So my question is, are you planning on increasing those back to what they were before COVID shutdown and stuff? Because where I'm at, I don't have access to the routes very much, even Monday through Friday. And so that has resulted in me dropping my ridership.
Thank you for your question,
Yeah.
Stacey. This is Sage.
Go ahead, Sage.
This is Sage Thornbrew with Service Development at RTD. I've been here since early 2019, and part of the issue in that specific part of the region is just that it's so low density, and there's not a ton of demand on US 287 in general, which is why we saw reductions in service on the LD. Even since that time, and we've realigned those routes and tried to provide better, more efficient and streamlined service there, we're still not seeing any sort of increase in ridership along US 287. So we're going to continue to monitor demand, and we're going to continue to see, listen to requests and comments from folks just like you. But at the time, there's no justification to bring back any additional service, especially when you take into consideration equity and other sorts of factors we have to take into account.
Thanks, Sage.
Right,
and Stacy, this is Erik Davidson. I just also wanted to comment that a lot of this has been very challenging as we come to this new normal that we're coming out of in the pandemic. I just wanted to make a comment to you that as Sage touched on, some of this comes down to density and how we balance across the very wide area that is RTD. And one of the things actually that as a director that I've had the privilege of doing in the year and a half that I've been here is engaging with more of the local officials. So for example, I just was sitting down with Mayor Castriota here in Broomfield today, actually over lunch, and talking about some of the challenges of first and last mile connectivity to RTD service, and talking about some of the challenges of being in a less dense area and what we might be able to do. So while we don't have great answers right now, I want you to know that we're meeting about this at the board level, at senior leadership level, at the elected official level within the cities and counties. And this, we hear loud and clear, and trust me, I hear loud and clear, being not only the director for the region, but also a citizen of Broomfield. So as Sage touched on, we have density challenges, we have workforce challenges, which we'll touch on more in this evening, but I just want to assure you that certainly I hear you, we hear you, and we're exploring what the next couple of years could look like. 287 in particular, I think, is a very interesting corridor. It was called out in a study that was done called the North Area Mobility Study as a high priority corridor as it continues to grow. So we do have our eyes on how we can do better there. So thank you for the comment.
All right, thank you, Director. Sorry for speaking over you. Let's go to Bill next on the phone. You're live. Go ahead.
Hi, I just had a question on when the 122X might be brought back into service. I'm also in Broomfield, and my office is at Broadway and 16th. So to walk over a mile from Union Station is sometimes not convenient.
Hi, Bill. Thank you for your question. This is Sage Thornberry in Service Development again. When it comes to the 122X, this is something that we've heard a lot of recently. Tons of comments we've received from people just like yourself. Unfortunately, it's one of those situations where with the 120X running right now and our lack of operator resources, it's very hard to justify bringing back a route that is almost duplicative service, even though it does end up on the eastern side of downtown rather than ending up at Union Station. So we're very aware of the 122X. It's something that we want to bring back, but the main factors that we have to take into account, again, are our driver resources and equity challenges. And I might let somebody else speak to that a little bit more, but we have to take into account the fact that there's already service going on in that area. There's ways to get there, even if it does involve a transfer. And there are other parts of the region that have no service or little service. And so we have to be smart about how we use our resources as we hire new drivers and things like that.
All right, well, keep your questions coming. Star 3 will direct you to an operator, and we'll get you in the queue. Next up is Randy. Randy, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Randy Ovis. I'm developmentally disabled, and I like to see more service into Erie because I live in Erie now. And I like to see more service into Erie, which I can use to go older, to go to work, or to recreational places. So,
Randy,
and I also would like to see a local office where I can go and get my special needs bus pass.
Randy, thank you for your question.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Sage. Sorry.
Yes, Randy, thank you again for your question. This is Sage Thornberry in Service Development. I'll go ahead and come out in front and say I can't respond to the bus pass question. I'm going to leave that to another panelist. But with regards to expanding service in Erie, again, unfortunately, Erie is just one of those parts of the region at this point in time that is very, very, very low density. And while it is growing and developing, it's happening very slowly and it's very urban sprawl. So we are monitoring demand in this area, but even with the service that we do currently have going out to Erie, the ridership is very, very low. So we hope for increased development throughout that area so that we can bring in service that is going to serve more individuals like yourself so that we can get folks like you to where they need to go for recreation, shopping, groceries, all the sorts of good things that we all need to do. But at this point in time, that's not happening anytime in the near future. But we are monitoring demand and we're doing everything we can until then.
All right, thank you, Sage. Here are the results of our second survey question. We asked, do you believe that RTD fares should be more affordable, even if it results in less service? 44% of you said no, 17% said yes, and 39% of you are not sure. We'll have a couple more questions. We appreciate your feedback. And let's go back to another question from Harland. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, I was wondering about, I live in Longmont, and one of the things I enjoyed about RTD was the Rocky buses to take to the ball games. It was very convenient. I'd even be willing to pay more if it were restored.
Harlan, this is Erik Davidson. I think I'd love to hear from one of our panelists on staff about the specifics of the Rockies bus, but I'll tell you that some of the event buses have been cut, and one of the discussions that's happening at the board level is looking at how this is handled in other areas, and I appreciate your comment about willing to pay more. The way a lot of other parts of the country will finance special events is something that we haven't traditionally done in this region, which is actually by partnering with the events to be able to collect the necessary revenue on the tickets themselves. So we have a challenge with workforce limitations, which I'm actually going to comment on this evening. But then the other piece of this is how we finance services like that. Again, I think it's just important to know I don't have good answers right now, but some of the folks on the board, along with me, are very interested in looking at how other areas do this in partnership with the hosts of these events. And I'm wondering if somebody on the phone can follow up as well.
Thank you, Director Davidson. I can follow up. This is Sage Thornbrew again in service development. When it comes to the Rockies bus, one of the main things that was taken into account, apart from the cost, is the driver shortage, which we're making progress on, and it's slowly but surely getting better. But it's very hard to justify running services that are considered special services when we're having issues providing the service that we should be providing on a daily basis, our scheduled services. And again, I keep saying this, and I can't go into all the details because this isn't my area of expertise, but equity. It's, again, hard to justify running service to and from a Rockies game when there are parts of town that people desperately need service to go to and from work, and they either can't get that service, or they can't get enough service, or they deserve more service with the demand that's going on in the area. So again, just reiterating, driver shortages, equity, these are all important factors that our board has to take into consideration as they're making decisions on things like the Rockies bus. But again, greatly appreciate the comment about wanting to pay more for the service. I wish it was as simple as that, but unfortunately it's not.
All right, before we move on to our next topic, we're going to ask our third survey question. Again, use your telephone keypad to enter the number of your response. Here it is. What factor would increase your likelihood of taking RTD services the most? Press 1 for more affordable fares. Press 2 for a system where you feel safe. Press 3 for more frequent bus and train service. And press 4 for more service coverage in your area. While you're recording your vote, I'm going to ask Director Davidson to introduce our next topic, which is right on what we've been talking about, workforce. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Roger. And, certainly heard from a couple of you about areas where we haven't been able to restore service. Obviously, most recent question with the Rockies service. One of the things that's really challenging us and stretching us is our workforce shortage. And, I just would comment that, this is unfortunately going on all around us, not just in other industries, but within transit. The American Public Transit Association recently did a survey on this, and 92% of transit agencies have shortages right now. 71% of us are cutting or delaying service as a result. So it's a significant problem. So I want to talk about our current workforce, and then we can highlight a little bit about what we're doing to address these concerns. So right now, RTD has an extensive workforce of over 3,500 employees. Those positions include bus and rail operators, mechanics, a lot of administrative staff, and of course, many other positions. One of RTD's strategic priorities, so just to touch on that, this board of directors last year with our new CEO, established a new strategic plan that's very focused on 4 specific areas of RTD. One that we've highlighted is employee ownership, and really trying to create this agency that folks want to come work for, so we can attract and retain the highly skilled and engaged workforce that we need. And RTD is people who move people, and so to help keep our transit system reliable and pick up the service, we're currently hiring for many key positions. So actually, if anyone's listening in, that they themselves or have a friend or family member that's looking for a good career in public service, we certainly encourage people to take a look at RTD. We're hiring for many positions including bus and rail operators, body shop technicians, and mechanics. And I would note that many of our positions are currently eligible for a $4,000 signing bonus. And we've got some other benefits that are coming online here as well that we're excited about.
Director, other than the $4,000 signing bonus, which is significant, what would you like to share regarding benefits for those that might consider joining RTD?
Yeah, thanks, Roger. So one thing that I'm certainly excited to share, that this board and the leadership at RTD have currently entered into a new collective bargaining agreement signed with the Amalgamated Transit Union, or the ATU, the local 1001 chapter. This happened earlier this year in February and March, and it offers a number of additional benefits to employees with positions that are represented by the union. Certainly we offer competitive wages. I would just note that while the starting salary of an operator was $20.58, that has actually moved up to $24. So we had a pretty big increase, and some more increases planned. We also now have education allowances. We have a very good retirement savings plan. This is something that I'm very excited about. We had some issues at RTD with looking at our pension plan becoming decreasingly funded. We've actually been able to shore that up, improve the funding level of the pension to ensure it's going to be there, while also creating a very, very competitive retirement plan. Our new employees coming in next year are actually going to look at a 403B plan that allows them to get 9% of their wages contributed, and then they can add an additional 5% for a 5% employer match, getting up to 19% contributed towards their retirement accounts. We also have paid in-house training programs. So these are a few of the things that we have done, including some other nice perks in our collective bargaining agreement, like increasing vacation flexibility. Also, what you may not know is that RTD also offers some extensive training programs where you can learn to operate a train if you don't already have that expertise. Also, for folks interested in becoming bus operators, RTD will actually help those folks get a commercial driver's license, or CDL, which can be useful in and out of RTD, although it's our goal to certainly encourage folks to stay at RTD. Individuals that are interested in joining us can go to rtd-denver.com/careers, or you could just Google RTD Careers and you'll find us. And if you don't see an open position, keep checking back. We're opening up a lot of new things. A lot is opening up. And I just want to comment that we're constantly saying that we have these workforce challenges, and we hear everybody in the community. We are very anxious to restore these services, and this collective bargaining agreement and addressing our people power problem has been one of the top priorities of this board throughout the year and a half. So thanks, Roger. I'm going to go ahead and pause there, and perhaps we can take a couple more questions and look at those survey results.
Absolutely. Here's the results of our third survey question. We asked, what factor would increase your likelihood of taking RTD services? And 50% of you said more service in my area. That's no surprise. 33% said more frequent bus and train service, and 17% said a safer system. We appreciate that input. Here's a question that was submitted online from John. What is RTD doing to increase access to transit between Boulder and Longmont? Are we getting our train? I bet you've heard that question.
I have, and I can empathize with the question, and being somebody who lives in District I, where we have the N line and the B line are not complete from Fast Track. So I do want to just comment. I mean, I think folks know where we stand on this, that it's been very challenging financially. RTD got overextended in its past and has significant debt service that has limited its ability to complete the Fast Track's corridors. But I do actually want to touch on some things that happened last year and are ongoing in this year. So despite the challenges, we're looking forward to whether there might be any partnerships that are out there to look at opportunities to complete the Northwest Rail corridor or the B line. So one of the most important things we did last year is we at RTD signed a cooperation agreement with Front Range Passenger Rail, which was then a commission, but is now actually a formalized district, and CDOT, the Colorado Department of Transportation, on a project referred to as Front Range Passenger Rail. So there's been a concept out there, and the legislature has been interested in looking at creating a rail service that runs all along the Front Range. If that were to happen, one of the potential rail alignments or the lines that rail might take could be along the Northwest Rail Corridor. If something like that were to happen, it would be a multi-agency effort and would undoubtedly require federal funding and cooperation. Amtrak is what we all have our eyes set on, particularly with there being an Amtrak advocate in the White House. So we did sign to cooperate. And the other thing that we did last year is the board moved forward to allocate $8 million to study the exact cost and updated ridership information on what it would take to start a peak service plan. So rather than implementing the entire planned Northwest Rail service, to look at what it would take to deliver 3 trains in the morning and 3 trains in the afternoon. We think that those costs are roughly about half the cost of the entire project. That puts them still out of reach. But by signing this cooperation agreement with Front Range Passenger Rail and CDOT, we can share information, and the peak service plan could actually align with what we might be able to initially operate on a broader project. So I want to be very clear that a lot of these are long shots. They're big efforts that require a lot of cooperation across many agencies in the federal government. But RTD has been paralyzed and unable to move forward on this. So for the last year and a half, we're trying to look at what might be available with some creative partnership options. So unfortunately, we're not breaking ground on it right now, but we did procure the services of a consultant, HDR Engineering, recently that's going to do that study on what it would take to do peak service. So we'll certainly be happy to keep everybody updated on that project as we learn more. Thanks for the question.
Thank you, Director. It might be a good time now to talk about Reimagine RTD. It's the agency's plan for the next 5 years. Let's have Chris Quinn come back and give us an update. Chris, go ahead.
Thanks, Roger. And before I jump into that, I think I might have given the wrong dates for the next meetings for the FAIR study, so I just wanted to provide the accurate information on that. The next meeting will be on June 23rd at 6 p.m., and you can register online for that. That will be the English meeting, and then on the 29th, that is when we will have the meeting that will be in Spanish. That's also at 6 p.m., and you can register online for that as well, since both of those will be Zoom meetings. So sorry about that, and back to your original question, Roger. Reimagine RTD is a planning process to develop and address the transit challenges, as well as answer the question of what's next for RTD. And some of the current challenges we've talked about earlier in this meeting, they include reductions in ridership resulting from the pandemic, and limited options for increased consistent funding for the future. So the intent of Reimagine is to provide a framework to guide future service decision-making for the district via 2 key components. And those components are, first one being a system optimization plan, which is a redesign of RTD's services to balance the needs of the traveling public with the financial realities currently facing the agency. And the second component is a mobility plan for the future, and that is going to be an identification of long-term strategies between now and 2050 to address the region's future mobility needs. Now, we've just completed the first component, which is, again, the system optimization plan, and that's the 5-year plan where we've focused on, as an example, individual bus routes to see how we could either consolidate routes, streamline them, just anything to add to their efficiency and make them as useful as possible to our customers. Now, we released that plan in January, or a draft of that plan in January, and we received over 1,400 comments. All of those comments were evaluated, and where possible, adjustments were made to the system optimization plan. Now, our intent is that the plan would be implemented over a period of 5 years through 2027, but of course that's going to be dependent on the availability of, again, operator resources. So RTD is also developing a mobility plan for the future, so again, the second component, and that's to address the long-term planning needs between now and 2050. Now, in July, the RTD board will act on the final system optimization plan, and then at that same time, they'll also determine how to move forward on the mobility plan for the future. So that's kind of in a nutshell, a high-level description of Reimagine RTD.
All right, thank you for that, Chris. I've got a question before we go back to the audience. Sage, I subscribe to RTD service alerts, and sometimes there are cancellations of my route. What is RTD doing to mitigate those cancellations? Whoops, Sage, you may be muted.
Apologies, I definitely was. Roger, RTD does its best to ensure that all scheduled trips run, but when a schedule adjustment needs to be made, we make sure it's as least disruptive as possible. When making real-time adjustments, we do not cancel back-to-back trips, and we do not cancel the final trip the evening so that people can get back home on the last route, even if others' runs were canceled. I encourage all customers to enroll in service alerts for the buses and trains that they take most frequently. We recently updated our service alert system as well, which you may or may not be aware that we have. Now, when a customer signs up, they are notified via text or email in real time when a schedule adjustment is made. Customers can also use the RTD Next Ride and Trip Planner functions on our website to plan alternative trips.
I appreciate that info. Let's ask our final survey question. Again, just use your phone to enter your response. Here it is. How satisfied are you with RTD services overall? Press 1 for very satisfied. Press 2 for satisfied. Press 3 for somewhat dissatisfied. And press 4 for very dissatisfied. And if you have a last question, we've got a couple minutes left. So please press *3 on your phone and we'll get you in the queue. Director, we are wrapping up here in a few minutes. What else would you like to share with the audience about RTD or your district?
Yeah, thanks, Roger. There's a couple things I'll share and keep an eye on to see if there's some other questions coming in. So certainly one thing I want to share for those that travel State Highway 119, particularly there between Longmont and Boulder, if you're like me, you've noticed that a lot of the traffic has returned, actually more on the diagonal there. And I did want to mention earlier I alluded to the North Area Mobility Study, which was done several years back and highlighted some of the high priority corridors in the area that we wanted to improve service. And one was on 119 on the diagonal. And for those familiar with the Flatiron Flyer on 36, that's an express bus service that we refer to in this area as BRT, or Bus Rapid Transit. And one of the concepts was to bring express bus service in a BRT style to State Highway 119, to the diagonal. And so I do want to let everybody know that we are moving forward with that. The board has committed a total of $33 million over the next couple of years, starting with $5 million that was just approved just a few weeks ago for this year's budget. And we are cooperating with CDOT on this, as well as some other partners. And probably one of the most exciting things that we'll be doing on State Highway 119 from a bus service standpoint is adding Q bypass lanes, which essentially allows the bus at intersections when there's a stoplight to scoot around traffic in a dedicated lane and then have its own priority signaling to pull ahead of that traffic. And at the most congested times, that can actually cut down the rate of travel by as much as 50%, which starts to make the bus service look increasingly competitive as a good option for folks to take on 119, given how jammed up it is. So from an RTD perspective, we are working on new trunk segments to park and rides, looking at 3, I believe, new park and rides, and doing some improvements at the CU East campus, the southern terminus, adding some upgrades to our stations for that BRT style, and again, adding that transit signal priority, which is actually then, of course, we're collaborating with the Colorado Department of Transportation. So that's a pretty exciting project that's going on for this region. Even if you don't live in Longmont and Boulder, you probably travel 119 if you live up this way. And if you do, you know that it's in need of some express service. I also wanted to touch on a modernization, I would say, of our ticketing. Over the summer and into the fall, RTD is going to be implementing account-based ticketing, an account-based ticketing system, or ABT. And what this means is it's a more modern version, and instead of tying your fares to just strictly a physical asset, it ties it to your account. And that account means that you can access public transportation by tapping or scanning a secure token, which might be a smart card, kind of like the MyRide cards that folks might be familiar with, a mobile device, a credit card. And so this new system will be a little bit more modern. And then I would just add that alongside with this, we're implementing a fare capping system, which essentially is a new policy that ensures customers always pay the best fare regardless of how they pay for the trips. And the way that works is, since we're basing this off an account as opposed to just someone's card, we can actually see how much they've paid in fares. So they could work their way to, a month pass, for example. Once they've paid an amount that would have added up to a monthly pass, we won't have them, be paying any more. They'll essentially have that pass. And that does two things. One, it's a convenience if you're just, a frequent user. Certainly it's helpful. But the other thing it does is it means that folks who aren't able to afford putting all the money up front for a pass can actually earn their way towards the pass and be paying as they go. And certainly something you've heard tonight is the focus on equity. Out of the pandemic, the board and our staff are certainly very aware of who needs and depends on our system, and it's important for us to think about how to make things a little bit easier for folks to travel with us. And the other thing I would comment on, I just want to briefly touch on, I talked about the CBA and touched upon this, but the board of directors really is focused on 4 strategic priorities for the agency, and our CEO that was brought in late 2020 has a laser-like focus on these 4 areas, which includes employee ownership, which you heard about. It includes customer excellence, which is improving the customer experience on our system. And so that's where initiatives like this account-based ticketing system are coming from, making it more convenient for folks to access the system. Things like the Fair and Equity study that we heard from Chris about. Another focus area for us is also community value, and this is really engaging with our community partners to solve some of these problems together. I think out of COVID and as this region continues to grow, we have to be more nimble in looking at these first and last mile solutions in our sprawling area. So seeking new partnerships and new ideas is going to be an increasing focus for the agency. And then the final 4th strategic area for us to focus on is financial success. So certainly this is important to me as a representative of taxpayers in this area, and as a board director, a fiduciary to this agency, is ensuring that we're being wise with tax dollars. So a perfect example of how we're balancing these strategic priorities is actually that collective bargaining agreement, where we were simultaneously able to improve the retirement plan while deliberately doing so in a way that could actually improve the financial status of our pension liability in future years. So without getting, I guess, too far into the weeds, I just want everyone to know that we're thinking very strategically as a board. It's a new way of looking forward at RTD, and we're certainly doing everything we can to manage our finance as well to set us up for success moving forward. So those are some of the updates I wanted to highlight. So with that, Roger, I'll hand it off to you to see what additional questions and some of the survey results.
You bet. Thank you, Director. We did have a question submitted online from Ava. She said she was interested in that $4,000 signing bonus that you mentioned. But is the bonus for all jobs or just certain jobs?
Yeah, thanks, Roger. I know that it's not for all jobs. It is for certain job openings that are unionized. So examples of the positions that qualify are body shop techs, bus and rail operators, mechanics, service and cleaning, and public safety dispatchers. And folks can learn more about that on our website.
Director, do you have any information on what jobs pay at RTD? What's some examples of what we are paying?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, after the recent changes we've made and the increases in pay we've brought to address our workforce shortage, I can give some of the updated starting salaries. Our bus and rail operators start now at $24 an hour. Our body shop technicians are starting at $27.98 an hour. Our service and cleaning team starts at $18.42 an hour, and public safety dispatchers start at $53,000 a year. And again, you can go ahead and check out the RTD Careers page of our website to learn more about other positions.
All right, thank you for that. So here are the results of our final survey question. We asked, how satisfied are you with RTD services overall? 50% said somewhat dissatisfied, 25% said very satisfied, and 13% of you said satisfied, and 12% said very dissatisfied. So a little, pretty well evenly split there. We appreciate all your input that you've provided tonight. It's very helpful to us. We are now at the end of our hour. Director, do you have any final closing remarks?
Yeah, Roger, I just wanted to add one thing that I should have noted in my update, which was the passage of Senate Bill 180. We are collaborating with the state to do Fare Free August. So we're trying to spread the word about that folks can try out the system for free in the month of August. Certainly we encourage folks to do that and also spread the word with their neighbors and friends and family to come join us on the system. If you haven't been with us during the pandemic, please come back. We're trying everything we can to rebuild our workforce and rebuild our ridership. So we're excited about that month ahead. And the only other thing I would add is just, thank you to everybody, and sincerely thank you for the patience. This is a very difficult time for all of us in the community, I think, as we've struggled through this pandemic in all facets of society. And we can only get through these things by working together and understanding each other and communicating and engaging. So for folks that joined tonight and listened in and submitted comments, truly thank you for taking the time to do that. And please, if you ever need anything, reach out to me. Feel free to reach out to me directly. You can find my information online. You can also reach me on my cell phone at 303-880-8695. If I don't get back to you, you can send me a text or voicemail if I don't pick up, and I will certainly get back to you. So thanks again for joining, everybody, and feel free to reach out.
All right, thank you, Director. We are sorry if we did not get to your question tonight, but you can still leave us a message, question, or comment. Just stay on the line and you'll be directed to a voicemail system. On behalf of Director Davidson, our panelists tonight, and all the hardworking public servants at RTD, thank you for taking part in this event, and have a great evening.